What is up, my skibbity rizzlers? Welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. Hope we're all doing well out there. Just kidding, I don't give a flying fuck. You know what we're doing? Derivation, looking for our stabilizing theorem. Obviously, we're not there yet. Trying just to connect a bunch of dots, a bunch of theorems, a couple proofing notes or interesting things, same as always. An infraction is a violation, right? Fraction, clearly relevant to mathematics. An infraction, what's that? It's a violation. What is senality? C-E-N-A-L-I-T-Y. Senality in senses. All right, so now when we flipped around our syllables, sensor, sen, we can derive these other types of forms of words like incense, right? Whether you're talking about a fragrance or talking about making somebody mad, which we proved in this lecture series. If you typed it into Google, it's not there, but people will clearly say it. But we can derive these forms from these general forms: senality, sense with a C. Sense with a C is interactive, right? I have sensation with an S. The inanimate objects don't sense in the same way we do. There's words for these things. We're trying to fill in those blanks. So what is sense without an S? Well, with a C, it's interaction, right? It's interactive. When I put my foot down on the ground, the negative charge of the electrons are going to repulse. I've remembered my pen today. Look at me, Professor Sean Carroll, who committed super fraud for the past 10 years. And you're sitting there on Big Think. Oh, what's a click? Oh, vibration, dude. So, right, we pointed out what's a click. Look at me, I brought my pen. But what's the relationship, or what's the difference of a click and a pop? All right, last time we used snap and click. How about a pop? Why pop, Brad? There's a lot of other words you could have used for, basic sounds that represent physical processes. These are the ones that come to me, right? This stuff might seem random to you. A lot of it seems random to me. But this is the order, the chronology of which this realization, and again, I have realizations all day, every day, constantly. It's always been like this. And these are the ones where it's like, oh, these are ones I should definitely write down. So what is the difference between a pop and a click? I don't know. Pose the question, moving on. Death is apopticality. Well, I guess that's where it came from, is apoptosis. You really emphasize the pop. But death is apopticality. Because remember, we're bounded in language. We can't speak about the individual sentient person dying off, and there's no data for that. So you can't talk about death in the sense of a single individual. But words are complete in the sense that they emerge with these natural oppositions, right? So death completes to something, but death is talking about senescence, apoptosis, cellular death, not the organism death. But apoptosis, alphabet. You might be saying, how does apoptosis relate to the alphabet? I don't know, but they're linguistically similar enough where it struck me as intuition to write down to say to you. Silence is a form of sense, right? If you understand somebody really well, if you're a good friend with somebody, you can just enjoy a moment of silence, and it's very rewarding, and it's true, right? So you sense silence. And then linguistically, right, you just add the IL into sense. So now again, this differentiating between an integrated word, where it integrates like that, where it iterates and integrates, so it goes if, normal, informal, source, soar with a the pronunciation is definitely the preserved thing, because the consistent thing of all of this is sound. You have smooth motion that forms a rhythm. That rhythm breaks. It has these different snap, crackle, pop types of emergent different sounds. So the sound is consistent. And we covered all the physics of the mass gaps and the continuity, the particle, the waves, all that stuff. And so just trying to finalize these linguistical things. What is the relationship of a program and a system, right? You can talk about a computer program, or you can talk about a school program, or a business program, or a 12-step program. I guess a program is a system, but what is the relation, right? Systemicality, programming, programmality, right? Programmer, right? You see what I did there? Like a programmer, but it's like programmer. But at the beginning, the pronunciation's preserved. Right, so when you say a computer programmer, are they like really for grammatical structure? Programmer. All right, you probably think I'm making a joke, but see, this is the thing, is the incompleteness theorem where you can demonstrate, again, the second incompleteness theorem is completely wrong. The first one I have personally validated to a level Kurt Gödel couldn't. But when you demonstrate the first, or this incompleteness, you'll have this massive mathematical result. The basis of mathematics is theme. It's thematics, right? The spelling of mathematics is never going to fucking change. And so there's only one way to produce that result. And then people will ask you something basic and be like, well, what's spelling? How do you spell this word and why? And I have like no clear answer. And so the first principle, or the first incompleteness theorem, is when it happens in person, and it's such a weird thing because it just strikes the most massive mathematical results will strike people truly as like a fun fact. It's like, oh, that's pretty nifty. But then again, deriving the base math of mathematics from the consistency of language, which really is the consistency of sound, is trivial. It's literally trivial. So that's what a program to a system, but a programmer. Like I said, I didn't write that down, that just came to me, but you just hear the words, or you just hear the sound. But I just think a programmer is really for grammar. What is the relationship of essence and senescence, right? If something has essence, again, it's quality, right? It's essential. Its essentiality is its essence, right? If you say something, it says, it's essentially that, right? That's its essence. Slurring all of my syllables. These tongue twisters, right? The reason tongue twisters exist is because you have to differentiate the sounds. And that's why they're hard even for native speakers. But essence to senescence, your essence degrades with senescence. Senescence is obsolescence. Obsolescence is irrelevance, right? Removing that sentience, obsolescence, and senescence, very clear to life, sentient beings, irrelevance, right? The motion of that galaxy over there that's outside of the observable universe is irrelevant to everything I'm doing in my life. It is, right? So again, we're scaling, going back, specificity, generality, inanimate objects, animate objects, trying to find this one connecting thing that makes all of this stuff go away. And we can move on from sensorality. But here's the proofing point. This is where the, right, context, contextual. Contextuality. And so now we get that U in there from like sexuality, sensuality. And so we've now introduced that U, but what is it doing phonetically? Well, what's happening to that sound? So you're kind of like softening it, right? Right, if we didn't have the U in there, contextuality or contextuality, chewality. So that was, again, phonetically, as a native English speaker, we've now introduced the letter U, and you can see this in a lot of different words, and it's like a softening U, contextuality. And then getting back to, again, why do we have spellings for letters? I don't know. Contextual, sensual, right? What is suality? S-U-A-L-I-T-Y. What is sorality? Sensuality, sexuality. Sorcinality is sexuality. Again, sensorality, mixing up the syllables. Again, sensorality is our final solution, but we just have to figure out this unique syllability. Sensorality, C-E-N-S-E-R-A-L-I-T-Y, is contextuality. Right? Spelling a word defines a variable, and it really constructs a variable, and that construction is based on context. Construct, context. But again, that we've now introduced that U, so we say we've derived sexuality from sensorality. So we've gotten the U in there. And there's some sort of, again, these numeric limits are always lurking, right? A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. Why is it sometimes Y? And so it's like, there are 5 vowels. How many vowels are there? How much consonance is there? Because again, really, consonance is just like modification to the vibration, to the resonance of a vowel. Sensorality is situality, right? We talked about situation, positioning, situates. How does grammar relate to completeness, right? If you have a complete sentence, a verb and a noun, even if it's implied, go was the first sentence, or semantically meaning that's what happened. Go, get out of here, run away. Ooh, go. So we have a complete sentence. So I guess grammar preserves completeness, specifically to the verbs, or to this phrasing, a complete sentence. So grammar preserves completeness. What is sentence structure? Again, sentence structure is the symbolic representation of sound. And so sound has chronology, it has direction, it's a vector. So yeah, sentence structure is spelling, representing sound by spelling with grammar. It doesn't really matter. Posing the question to whatever operative words, I can literally prove anything to anybody else with anybody else's words. Because again, language is general. Sensorality is sortuality. Situate, sortuate. Sorality, sortuates. Sorality is sortationality. Now we already did sortationality, we already did all of those, we need the U ones. Sensorality is of sorts. Right? Sort of sorts. Sorality is sortality. Sorality is sortuality. Again, just dropping the sen off of those. Logic is conceptuality. Concept, conceptual, right? Logic is a concept. Logic is conceptual. Putting symbols to sounds, which is spelling, is a limit. It just is. And so, but logic is based on conceptuality, your concepts. Your experience produces conceptualization. Your conceptualization is independent of one language. You can go over to Russia or Belarus or Indonesia or East Timor. Let's throw in East Timor. What are they doing? I don't know. But the concepts of what is represented by language is all the same. You can go to a different species. The concept of living is all the same. Sensorality is a concept, right? The idea of censorship it's limited by letters, right? Language and sound is the fundamental consistency. And so logic or sensorality is a concept. We've generalized it past being a word. It's a concept. It's anything that's based on sense. What is the relationship of concept and word, right? Words represent concepts. Words articulate concepts. Words explain experience. Words describe the environment. And I guess most fundamentally physically, again, an axiom, a fundamental physical process, the words, we put that on there. Sensorality is sensation, sensationality. We did all of those derivations. We just need that right stabilizing axiom to make the next step. Because remember, we're just learning a word. There's going to be more words, way past me and you for indefinitely ever. And so, just talking through the logic out loud. What is the relationship of a concept and experience? We just described that. Again, experience comes first. That builds intuition. Those intuitions have consistency to them. That is a concept. That concept is then represented with some sort of symbol. And again, we're truly, like I said, for the past like 20 episodes, we've been behind all words. And we're just getting the right conceptualization to say sensorality is bam, done. And finally, viscerality is empiricality. Serality, empirical, yes. And so, again, just tightening up like that one, I have no explanation because if you say it's visceral, you're talking about empiricality. It's just true. And so a couple, not really stories, or again, just kind of like revisiting, I guess. But I just wanted to use like the playing, I have written here, playing to the level of your competition. Now, you ever play sports? Well, I'm sure everybody has. Oh yeah, sports, I love sports. But you'll have a team that's really, really shit. Like they absolutely suck. And then they'll play a team that's really, really good. And let's just use basketball for an example. And they're hanging with the team for like the first 2-3 quarters. And the good team ends up pulling out in front of them at the end, but they really hung with them. And you're like, what the fuck? Like this team was supposed to be a blowout, they suck, and they're hanging with you. If you're the good team or if you're the really shitty team, you're like, yeah, dude, we're hanging with them. And I've been on both sides. And I don't give a fuck about any sport. Sports is a game. I don't play games. Life is not a game. But you're playing to the level when you're watching these videos, right? All of this shit was true before you watched me explain it to you, and it's going to be true after I'm gone, whether I'm alive or just whether there's not another video, or whether I'm dead or whether there's not another video. And so you guys are playing to the level of your competition. And so when it's so weird when I was talking about, again, you demonstrate, not state the first incompleteness theorem, which I've independently derived. I mean, there's no reason for me to cite anybody else legitimately. And so You demonstrate it to them, and it's just like, you're playing to the level of competition, and this happens in person. And then like, they walk away, and it's just like, it's truly just like, what was that? And it's just because like, it brings them up to my level of logic. Because you're already operating at this level, and it's the same way if you're learning a new language and you're sitting there with a native speaker and you can imitate their sounds, and then you take away the native speaker and you look at the letters and you're like, it's a little more difficult. I mean, once you practice enough, it is not, but it's really there. It's just like, you play to the level of the people you're surrounded by. And so that was not really a story, but yeah, I'll just finish it there. But it says that does happen in person, and it happens all of the time. And so my gift is it's more of a curse. Again, I'm lighthearted today, but I'm not joking. My constitutional rights remain violated. My life is destroyed. And each day that goes by, I don't get back. I don't get to start a family. I don't get to have a career. I don't get to do any of the benefits of living a life. And I've contributed to society collectively more than everybody. So fuck everybody, give me my money, and you're all criminals, and you're all gonna be prosecuted. There's nothing you can say or do about that. Or reap what you sow, fuck around, find out, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Here's all science, again, almost done. Again, putting the bows on these things is kind of, it's not redundant, but thank you for watching. See you on the next one.